How did I get here? Have you ever asked yourself that? In the dead of night, when everything is silent but your thoughts? I never thought I'd be the one asking that question. But there I was, lying next to David, staring at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing. The silence between us was louder than his snores, and no matter how hard I tried to sleep, that same haunting thought wouldn't leave me. How did we get here? Sometimes the most painful part of a relationship isn't the fights or the big blow-ups. It's the silence, the growing distance, that slow, creeping sense that the person you once loved is now just a stranger who happens to sleep beside you every night. I couldn't even remember the last time David and I had a real conversation. Not about work, bills, or what to pick up from the grocery store, but a real conversation. The kind that made us fall in love in the first place. We were living under the same roof, but it felt like I was all alone, and I hated it. I tried. Believe me, I tried everything to pull us out of that void. Date nights, weekend getaways, surprises, anything to feel that spark again. But it was like David was slipping away from me, no matter what I did. He was always somewhere else in his mind, somewhere far away, and the more distant he became, the more invisible I felt. You ever feel like that? Like you're screaming for someone's attention, but they just don't see you? That was my life, my marriage. I kept telling myself it was just a rough patch, that he'd come back to me eventually. But deep down, I knew the truth. He wasn't coming back. And that's when Jack came into the picture. It was innocent at first. Harmless, just a few friendly conversations at the gym, a smile here, a compliment there. Nothing wrong with that, right? But with Jack, it wasn't just polite. He noticed me. He made me feel seen, like I wasn't just fading into the background of someone else's life. I'd tell myself it was nothing more than a harmless distraction, something to fill the empty space David had left behind. But the truth? Those innocent little chats started to become something I couldn't ignore. The longer texts, the coffee dates. And before I knew it, Jack and I were sneaking around, stealing moments like teenagers, as if we were in some secret world where the rules didn't apply. It's funny how quickly things can spiral when you're trying to avoid your reality. I found myself in places I never thought I'd be. Hotel rooms, Jack's arms wrapped around me, and for a few moments I felt alive again. I wasn't just David's wife anymore. I wasn't just the woman waiting at home, forgotten. I was me, or at least I thought I was. The guilt? Oh, it was there. But I pushed it down, way down, under layers of excuses. David doesn't care anymore. David's the one who pushed me away. I deserve this. I convinced myself that if he had paid more attention to me, if he hadn't become so absorbed in his own world, then maybe I wouldn't be doing this. Maybe I wouldn't have fallen into Jack's arms. But I wasn't fooling anyone, least of all myself. The affair wasn't fixing anything. It was just another lie. Another Band-Aid over the gaping wound that had become my marriage. Eventually, it became too much. I knew I had to end it with Jack. The stolen moments had turned into full-blown secrets, and I couldn't breathe under the weight of it all. Jack, he wasn't just a distraction anymore. He was starting to talk about a future. Our future. I didn't want a future with him. I never did. But how do you tell someone that? How do you tell them that what you thought was just a temporary escape has become a chain around your neck? Jack thought we could just drive away, leave everything behind. He'd mention it casually, like we could run off to the coast for the weekend, like I wasn't still married with a whole life I hadn't even thought about leaving. And then there was the text that changed everything. It was a simple message, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. He said, "What's the plan this weekend? Maybe we could get away together for a night." The way he talked, like I was his, like we had something real, it scared me. I had to end it. I told Jack to meet me at the cafe where we'd always met, and as I drove there, my heart was pounding. I kept running through what I would say, how I would explain that this was over, that it was never meant to be anything more than what it was. When I got there, Jack was already sitting at our table. He looked relaxed. Too relaxed. like he thought this was just another one of our stolen moments. But I wasn't here for that. I sat down, my hands trembling, and forced a smile. Jack, we need to talk, I started, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward, his eyes searching mine. What's wrong? He asked, but he already knew. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This has to end. I can't do this anymore. It's over. For a moment, he just stared at me, the smile slipping from his face. Then something shifted in his expression. It wasn't anger. It was something darker, colder. Over? He repeated. You think you can just walk away? The way he said it sent a chill down my spine. There was no pleading, no sadness in his voice, just a quiet, controlled menace. He wasn't asking me to stay. He was warning me that I couldn't leave. I tried to keep calm, but my hands were shaking. Jack, we both knew this wasn't going to last. You knew that. His eyes darkened and he leaned in closer. You don't get it, do you? You don't get to walk away like this. I'm not just some fling. You're not going to erase me. And then, in the quietest, most terrifying voice, he said, What do you think David will say when he finds out? What will everyone think? It was like the world dropped out from under me. My heart raced, my mind spinning. Jack wasn't just threatening me. He was holding my entire life, my marriage, my reputation, over my head. I had thought I could control this. I thought I could end it quietly. But Jack wasn't going to let me walk away that easily. The next few days were a blur. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt sick. Jack's messages kept coming, more and more demanding. And then, the worst happened. David found out. I was in the kitchen when he came home early, his face pale, his hands shaking. He didn't have to say anything. I saw the phone in his hand. Jack had sent him a message, just like he said he would. Ask your wife about the night she spent with me. I thought you should know the truth. There was no way out. No more lies to cover the truth. David stared at me, the betrayal clear in his eyes, and I realized I had lost everything. I had thought Jack was just a way to fill the void, but in the end, he didn't just take my marriage. He took me, and now I had to live with the consequences of my choices. How did I get here? The question still haunts me. But now the silence between me and David is no longer just emptiness. It's a reminder of the price I paid for trying to escape the void.